The car was just far enough behind to be an instant threat and close enough for him to figure out he was being stalked. Finally, a car pulled up next to him. Frozen with fear, he answers all his questions. Then he asks him to get in the car. Duncan forces a smile, gulps, and does exactly what he's told. Hello, wonderful people. I'm Jamie Buck from WonderBot. And here is... Teen gets ride from cop, realizes he said too much when cruisers show up at work. Before we begin, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Jordan Duncan was walking home from school, a treacherous 7-mile walk through pitch-black streets that usually took him around 2.15 hours to complete each way. Duncan didn't always have to walk to work. He used to have a car until it broke down and he couldn't afford to fix it. Now he was at the mercy of the dark mornings and nights. At first, he would get lifts off his family and friends, but after a while, he didn't want to be a burden on them anymore and decided he could walk. If only he knew all the possible dangers he was leaving himself open to. Duncan was a brave young man, but that didn't mean that he didn't get scared. He often got a fright on his walk home when he'd hear a noise coming out of the darkness. Luckily, nothing ever happened, just possums and squirrels and rats playing around. But this time would be different. Duncan was about to stumble into a terrifying encounter. With only one more hour to go, he began to daydream about his bed. He was exhausted after a long day at work, and the walk sure didn't help. He let out a big yawn and stretched his arms up towards the sky. That's when he noticed his shadow. He moved further away from the road, expecting a car to pass, but something was wrong. His shadow hung around and remained the same size. Confused, he looked around him. Out of the darkness and in the distance, he saw the dazzling headlights of a car. It seemed like it wasn't moving, but it was. It was keeping up with Duncan just far enough behind to not be an instant threat and close enough to make him realize he was being stalked. He turned around and quickened his pace. His shadow grew bigger as the darkness gave way to the headlights. The car slowly pulled up beside him. He acted like he didn't see it, but when he heard a voice shout from the car, his heart pounded as he looked at the man, and then he froze. It was the cops. Duncan's mind races as he orders him to stop walking and begins asking him questions. Does he think he's done something wrong? He surely looks suspicious walking on this empty road in the dead of the night. After he answers his questions, the officer asks him to get in the car. His face is stern, his head resting comfortably on his weapon. Duncan gulps and does what he's told. The officer offers to drop him home. He's so nervous that he can't refuse. The officer could have told him to do anything and he would have done it. So desperate to prove to the officer that he's a friendly, normal guy, he speaks nonstop. By the time he got home, the cop knew everything about him, his family, friends, where he lives, works. This cop had all his information. The next day, Duncan set out on his long journey to work again. He thought about his encounter last night and laughed at himself for being so scared. How ridiculous, he thought. I've been watching too many movies. Duncan concluded that this strange encounter was just a cop being friendly. But there was much, much more to the story. When he finally arrived at work, he was there waiting for him. He stood with his hand on his hip, resting on his weapon, feet planted firmly on the ground. His gaze fixated on Duncan. Confused at this unwelcoming sight, Duncan's heart raced. Why is he here? Was he there for Duncan? He didn't even do anything wrong. Duncan held his chin high and walked towards him. The police officer, Kirk Keffer, had listened to Duncan's story that night and his reason for walking alone in the darkness. He knew he had to do something to help. His drive, his work ethic, to me that speaks volumes, Keffer said. Not many 18-year-olds you meet have that kind of mindset. They don't even want to walk down to the store, let alone walk 7 miles just to get to work. Duncan had told Keffer that he had just graduated high school and really wanted to become a police officer after going to college, so they exchanged numbers. Duncan thought he'd never hear from him again, but Keffer had other plans. He showed up at Duncan's work and pulled out a brand new bike from the back of his car. But that's not all. He also spread the word about Duncan's dedication and started a GoFundMe page for him to go to college. They ended up raising $40,000 for him. Duncan couldn't believe this police officer did all this for him. He was in total shock. He never expected his actions would be recognized by a cop, let alone rewarded. Keffer and Duncan developed a solid friendship from then on and often kept in contact as Keffer checks in on how he's doing and how he's spending his money. Staying true to his word and ambition, Duncan spent $2,500 on a new car for his commute to work and put the rest towards college. A worthy GoFundMe recipient.